Hello everyone and welcome to the Creative Noah podcast. On this episode, we're joined by artist Mr. Edwards, who describes his work as a Pop Dada Party filled with a cast of characters all of his own making. And as long as it makes him laugh, anything is fair game when it comes to his creating. Mr. Edwards has had an interesting creative journey. From studying at St. Martin's and the Royal College of Art, to a career spent as a designer working for ID magazine, and then running his own agency, Nice, working with high-profile clients like Converse and Levi's. A collector of all things visual, we discuss all of that and more, like the big decision to emigrate to Australia and the shift that pushed Mr. Edwards towards art and creating without worrying if people get offended or not. Because, well, sometimes they do get offended. You can check out the links to Mr. Edwards' work while you're listening to the podcast, of course, but we go into so much in this one that it's probably best to leave it up to the self-confessed troublemaker and Justin Bieber lookalike, Mr. Edwards, to tell the story. So, let's get into it. Mr. Edwards, thank you so much for doing the Creative Noah podcast.
My pleasure.
I'm so glad we've caught you because it's a bit of an impromptu one. You're jetting back off to Australia very soon. But before we start, can I just say, you're right, it's absolutely uncanny. Justin Bieber. I wasn't sure how you'd react to that one because in your bio, people would be like, what's he talking about? Justin Bieber lookalike.
Yeah, I don't even know why I put that on there.
Do you think that's down to the comedy elements?
It is a comedy element. I'm trying to think where I got that reference from, and I can't for the life of me think why I put Justin Bieber.
But I think it's relevant to where we're going to go in this story. You describe your work as a Pop Dada Party, and there's obviously lots of comedy based in that. So my first question, before we get onto the full story, Mr. Edwards, art is shit. Do you believe art is shit?
No, but that's a reference to Manzoni's artist's shit. And it's almost like an anagram. So I quite like wordplay things. And as you know, he had a tin of shit, so I just slightly changed the letters.
So for the listener, what we're discussing is Mr. Edwards is essentially a can of, is it your own shit?
Everybody likes a bit of mystery, don't they?
So yeah, a play on the Manzoni piece, Merda de Artista.
That's right, yeah. Italian
guy, yeah?
Yeah.
And you've taken that and just tins labelled up as art is shit.
I don't know why I did that. It's one of those things.
But do you believe art is shit? Because there is, within Dadaism and pop art, there is that comedy element that we speak about.
It says, I mean, look, there is some shit art, but there's great art. I don't believe art itself is shit. It's purely a play on that one piece of art, which is what he was doing. He was looking at what is art? Why do people pay a lot of money for stuff? And so he was trying to take it to, would you buy this as art?
And is that why is it Dadaism? Is that why
Dada is just a bit more, it's just bonkers, you know.
Yeah, it was essentially, like you say, questioning what is art, what should be considered art, the farcical nature of that.
Yes. And I think you'll find that there's comedy, and especially now, so many comedians doing art. I think artists should do comedy.
Goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
So where do we start, Mr. Edwards? What's with the moniker, Mr. Edwards?
Well, that's, good point. I quite like that kind of very bland, nondescript naming convention, but it's also there's a lot of people that are Mr. something. I find it a bit amusing. And the reason I think I did it is I remember when I was working on ID magazine, we moved and we had these photographers' portfolios. They were put into black bin liners so that they didn't get lost during the move, and they got thrown out. And one of the photographers got really annoyed, as they would. And I think when they rang up annoyed, somebody just laughed at them about the loss. And so they sent someone round to get some compensation, and it was Mr. Smith. And I thought, well, that's quite sinister. It's just one of those nights. It's like nobody.
So generic, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it sort of almost takes your identity out of it and just gives it a Mr.
Good point.
Edwards.
That could very well be what it's about.
Should we talk about the work then? If we talk about the work, how would you describe the work?
Well, I call it pop because it's based in stuff that's around, ephemera, collected stuff that amuses me, stuff that I like visually. I think I've got a very graphic eye.
And where does that come from? Is this where we have to do the... Tell me about your childhood.
Well, it is. That's why we have to
creativity
start at the beginning, really, because it's like, why?
You're quite elusive on the internet. I couldn't find a huge amount about you. Obviously, I've got the basics of your journey. You did your foundation, East Ham College.
Yeah.
You then went on to St. Martin's School of Art, which then later turned into Central St. Martin's.
Correct.
And then the Royal College of Art.
Yeah.
So there's quite an illustrious tutelage, shall we say.
Partly. I left the Royal College early. They kind of asked me not to come back.
Okay, I feel like we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Should we go the steps backwards to...
Well, yeah, let's start right at the beginning, I guess, because...
Easiest place to start.
Yeah. How do you start on this path? I grew up in Ilford, which is out east. Very normal kind of childhood in the 1960s. But we didn't have any art in the house apart from when I was really young. I think there were 2 painting by numbers was a big thing that I think my dad must have done, and they were on the wall. And then in the 70s, I remember there was one painting on it. It wasn't a painting, it was a constable, but it wasn't a painting. It was something in a plastic frame, and it was the kind of thing that came free with a biscuit tin or something like that. So there wasn't any art. And I remember we had one encyclopedia volume. I think it was I to J, something like that. And that was the only one we got. So I could only look up things.
That's interesting.
That's weird, isn't it? So
where was your stimulus coming from?
Well, I didn't have, this is where I'm going to get, I didn't really have any stimulus. But then my dad was, this is what it says on my birth certificate, he was a show card printer.
What is that?
Well, he worked for a chain of supermarkets in the East End called Cater Brothers. And all the signs that say baked beans, 2p off, and all the point of sale, they would print in-house. And that's what he used to do. He was a screen printer. And very much like original pop, the kind of stuff that people copied in pop art. Just lettering and very simple, just get fresh and stuff like that.
And that was all presumably just screen printed posters at the time.
So it was all screen printed, and they used oil-based ink. You could smell it when you came in. So there's a smell that when you go into a print studio.
Nostalgic.
Yeah.
Was he a very practical man, or did he consider what he was doing creative?
He's certainly not practical. He was a terrible bodger. He was a bit creative. He could draw a bit, I think, but he never did anything at home. He was never drawing, or I think he just saw it as a job.
Yeah.
And I remember going to work with him one day, and it was under some railway arches, and they didn't have a toilet, so I think they'd have to go over the road to a pub. Or so. I can't imagine you're allowed to have a workplace now where there's no facility. And I was a very small boy, and I wanted to go to the toilet, so he just got an ink tin, big ink tin, put some paper around it, and that was So I remember the brand of the ink, Greyhound ink, because that must have been a traumatic experience.
That was your toilet. But these influences, obviously, your father being a screen printer, essentially.
Well, yes, that's come into it more recently. But the thing about it was he used to bring home paper, lots of white paper, and it was shiny on one side, rough on the other. So obviously that's what they were using to print on. Now, in those days, nobody had paper, really. Like, your mum might have a couple of sheets of lilac, Basildon Bond in the sideboard for writing letters. So I don't think people really had drawing paper. So I used to draw a lot. That's
simply because you had the paper.
Because I had the paper, yeah.
What were you drawing? What sort of stuff were you making?
I can't remember. I remember we went on holiday to Pontins, and I won a drawing competition. I got a prize, but I remember thinking, oh, yeah, I'm good.
Recognise your skill.
Yeah, and I used to get a lot of teachers used to say, "Oh, that's better than the other kid."
But what sort of stuff was it?
I can remember I had to draw street vendors. So I would have been about 6 or 7. All street vendors had little cries, "Come and buy my oranges," stuff like that. And we had to draw all these different street vendors. But that kind of was the start. And also he would bring home calendars from obviously what were given to him by the ink companies. To show how good the ink is, they would always have famous paintings on them. And the only one I can remember is, I don't know why it sticks in my mind, so, but it's Scotland the Brave, and it's the Charge of the Scots Greys I think it's by Lady Elizabeth Butler. It's from Battle of Waterloo, a load of men on horseback charging out of the canvas. So I started, I guess, getting exposed to art through that in a subconscious way.
So from a house with no stimulus, these calendars that had all these reproductions of art.
I was thinking back as to what it could be, and it's that. But, my brother and I used to get Marvel comics, lots of British comics and stuff. So it was that kind of pop art stuff like comic books.
And were you imitating stuff you were seeing in the comic books and recreating?
Yeah, I tried to draw things in that were in comic books. But it's those colours, and it's that, roughly printed on newsprint, that's out of register.
It's definitely had a shape looking at your work.
Well, it's just one of those recurring themes. After that...
So yeah, how do we go from the child who didn't have any stimulus, found paper and drawing, to going, okay, I'm going to do a foundation?
Well, it's interesting because I hadn't thought about it at all. In fact, I didn't know that art schools existed. And the school I went to was not great for me. And it was a rough school, and I didn't think the teaching was particularly good.
Did you already have those sort of more, shall we say, creative sensibilities?
No, but I was very shy and very quiet, and I always felt a bit. Even I've got a brother and a sister, but my sister's 4 years younger, and my brother's 3 years older, and I always felt a bit of an only child,
middle child syndrome.
Yeah, and I also had that thing where something's gone wrong here. I'm in the wrong family, obviously, and I was always expecting like a limousine to turn up and go, "Yeah, sorry, I don't know what happened there, but you got put in the wrong."
Really?
Yeah, a lot of
Why
kids.
did you feel like you're in the wrong family?
I don't know. I think it's one of those things kids just think, these aren't my parents. But then I was at school and I did French. I was okay at French. I liked geography. I was terrible at math. They have a problem if a ladder's leaning against the wall and there's a shadow at what's the angle. I used to spend a lot of time drawing the ladder.
And the ladder and the shadow.
And the shadow and all those. And he said, if you spent as much time trying to work the maths out as you did drawing the things, you'd be good at it. And geography, I would be doing all cross-sections of glaciers and volcanoes.
Again, introducing that creative, the technical elements.
Yeah, I was drawing because I was good at doing the diagrams. And then suddenly I decided to go into the sixth form and everything changed, but you could only do one language. So I used to learn German at lunchtime.
What made you want to spend your lunches learning German?
Well, I like languages, and I was quite good at French, and so...
Is that again an obsession with words in some respect?
I don't know.
It doesn't even matter what language it's in.
I don't know. I just wanted to learn another language. But I digress, don't I? Geography, I'm French, so I had this... In the sixth form, there's only 3 people in my French group. A wonderful French teacher who used to take us, because there was so few of us, she'd take us to the Courtois Institute to look at French Impressionists. So it started to get exposed to proper art.
And what did you feel when you were being exposed to that art for not the first time, because you'd seen art through the calendars and those sorts of things.
In
the flesh.
Impressionism is easy to get into. It's like chocolate box stuff, isn't it? So I can't really remember.
It must have had an influence, though.
It must have done, but I think it's something that goes in and you don't realise it's in till a bit later. And I was looking at, my mum saw a job in the paper for the Ordnance Survey people that do the map. Because I'd done some technical drawing as well. That was one of the things I could do at school. And I also thought, there's some geography in there. I'd probably do...
Yeah, with your illustrations.
Because I really had no idea what I was going to do with my life. And then one day, in the sixth form area, a girl, Elaine Malinsky, suddenly said, I'm going to art school. And I was like, oh, wow, they have art schools? She went, yeah. I said, oh, what's it called? And she said, oh, it's St. Martin School of Art. So I don't even remember how I got the application papers. I think maybe at the library. So I applied to the foundation course at St. Martin.
And what did that involve? An interview? They wanted to see some drawings? They wanted to...
So I didn't realise
Did you know
that.
this?
No. So I went along for an interview. I had a little, like a plastic supermarket bag. I think I had a bit of batik I'd done, some cartoons, and got maybe some... I think I did art at school, but it was like a bit of still life, and most of the time we just left to our own devices. The only thing I remember is there was a big stack of German magazines. Maybe that's why I wanted to learn German. There's a stack of German magazines called Stern, and it was not really suitable for kids.
I feel like I've heard of
Yeah,
Stone.
it was like a colour supplement thing, but as it was all in German, you'd flick through and there would be like a couple of pages of a woman in lingerie, and then you'd turn a page and there'd be a headless torso on a beach, and you'd try and connect what the story was, but you can't read it because it's
In a different language.
But that stuck in my mind for some reason.
So did you start to make work with these magazines, or was it just that piecing together stories?
That will come into the thing in a bit, I guess. But anyway, let's get back to St. Martin. Going for an interview. I just had this couple of still life things and cartoons in a bag. And they went, no, this won't do at all. You need to have a body of work that we can assess you on, decide whether you'd be right for the course. And I thought, oh. But what they did say was, there's a lot of people trying to get on this course. It's very competitive. But if you go to your local authority, it'd be easier to get a place, do your foundation course there, and then reapply here for the degree course. I went, okay, gotcha. So I must have gone back to the library and found East Ham as my local college. So I applied and I went along for the interview there. I hadn't learnt anything, by the way. I hadn't done any more. I hadn't done more work. But I had a different carrier bag. I had a paper bag. It was from a shop called Johnson's that was in Kensington Market. So I remember when I walked into the interview, there was a wonderful guy there called Roger Jeff who interviewed me. And he went, oh, that's a very trendy bag. And then what he did is he interviewed me first. So he talked to me and I just asked you things like, what books are you reading? What films do you like? And I was reading all these books I was quite into the Spanish Civil War, which again is going to come back. And he said, oh, you're just the kind of student that we're looking for. I was like, great.
Before looking at the work.
And then he said, let's have a look at your work. So I emptied the contents of this paper bag on the desk, and I can remember his words. He said, Jesus Christ, it's not a lot, is it? He goes, well, I can't give you a place on the strength of this. It makes a mockery of the whole interview process. But he said, if you go away and go and get yourself an easel, a big piece of wood, and some big sheets of paper, because I think everything I had was A4. Go and get some great big sheets of paper and some charcoal and do some views from your bedroom window, and then bring them back in a couple of weeks. I'll have a rethink.
He must have seen something in you then.
Yeah, I think he did, because he interviewed me first, yeah. So I did that, and I went back, and he said, all right, I'll take a punt. God bless him. I went on that course. Now, at the time, I was working at McDonald's. It's the only job I could get in Ilford. And I just happened to mention to another guy that I was going to East Ham. He said, I'm going to East. And I remembered that this guy had a car. And so on the first day, he had a mate he went to school with who's also going to East Ham. So on the first day, he picked us up in the car. The first day, we were like a little gang. We were in a little team. So everybody gravitated to us because we looked like...
You knew what you were doing.
Exactly, yeah. Well, it was great. It's an interesting building because it's mainly people doing welding and pipe fitting and the trade skills. And then you went right to the top floor, and then it opened out, and it was the art department. And this was the early 80s. So everybody was weird and wonderful, and they used to get in the lift, and you get a lot of abuse from all the tradesmen that were in there because everybody had pink hair and God knows what. And then you go up to this sanctuary that was on the top floor, and I loved it. I started keeping a lot of scrapbooks and sketchbooks and collage stuff I would stick in. And when the year was up and it was time to start applying for colleges, we had this pool system where there's a lot of not your personal stuff, but just like colour wheels and the technical stuff. We pooled all our resources, so we had one super portfolio that we'd borrowed to take round, and it was the best of three of us.
Oh, John's great at doing the colour wheels. We'll use John's colour wheels.
Okay, your colour wheel, we'll use your whatever that is, and you're one of those. Put them together.
Very resourceful.
But we also did this project that was, you had to bring in a document of some kind, like a birth certificate or a passport, and then you had to zoom in on a very small area and enlarge it. So it's a bit like in a banknote. When you look at all the stuff that goes in to stop people counterfeiting it, you're looking at that. But we got very good with coloured pencils, and in those days, your bus pass was this cardboard thing, and everyone got very good at changing the date by using coloured pencils.
So essentially became mini forgers.
We became mini forgers, and My mate he came unstuck. He did one for his brother, and he got caught, and he dobbed his brother in, and the police came and raided. They had a search warrant for his offices.
Really?
Where he was working. And the thing is, he had got this offer to go and work in Hollywood doing film posters, and he got a criminal record because of this thing, and he couldn't
Go to America.
go. Yeah.
Oh God!
So it was pretty
over
pretty full on. Well, the thing is, he was in the local paper, and they called him the head of this forgery ring. It was
really a forgery ring, and
he was called, and I think it named him as Mr. Big.
Mr. Big.
Yeah.
Where's the Mr. connotation again?
But there you go. It's going to come up a bit. Yeah. So anyway, where am I now?
So you exit this. So you count yourself lucky that you haven't been caught up too much in the forgery ring.
I only found out this recently. I didn't realise that this had happened. I just remember doing my bus pass. We'd all put names of artists on because you knew that the guy behind the ticket box wouldn't know who
who was your chosen artist.
I can't remember. I don't know if it was me or somebody else had Rodchenko, which he was a Russian constructor as their name. Probably would have been a Hockney or something. I don't know.
Duchamp or someone like that. Because
it was
not
someone,
French.
Yeah, because they had nothing more English than a foreign name, really. Is there?
Yeah.
So then, that's right. Then it came time to do a degree course, and I went to look at the degree course at St Martin's. Was a different building, about 300 yards from Covent Garden Station. And it was this fantastic old fruit and vegetable warehouse, and it was really nicely done up in 80s style. Lots of like primary colours, but it had this fantastic boardroom that was like lined in just walnut. So when I had a look around, I fell in love. It was like such a great building. I thought, that's it. I want to go there. And
but presumably at this point you had the body of work from your foundation.
I had the body of work now. Yes. Cha-ching.
Was it the same person that interviewed you?
No, because it was a different team. The foundation was in a different building, and this was the degree team. But before I got to that bit, you have to put second choice. So if you don't get in, I just thought, I don't know who to put as my second choice because I haven't seen anywhere I like.
And you had your heart set on...
I really had my heart set on going to St Martin's, and it's got a brilliant piece of advice, which I don't know if I would do now, but my personal tutor, a guy called Nikos, and he said, where was the worst place that you saw? Put that as your second choice, and then that'll make sure that you get into St Martin's, because if you don't, you're going to end up going to that shithole.
So you use that almost as a driver?
Yeah, so it's like burning your boats. It's like you
no other option.
You've got no other option. You've got to get in, otherwise you're going to go.
Did that make you work harder on your portfolio or your interview, or?
It must have done, because otherwise I don't know why I would have done it. But I think it was more mindset, really, because you've got no idea what they're looking for. That's the problem. And the thing about St Martin's is that they tend to pick different types of people, so that when they put them together, it creates something. So they don't want a
melting pot of people.
Yeah,
we want all the same artists.
They want lots of different people from all different walks of life. So it's almost like they'll take one punk, one posh person, one working class.
So what sort of subculture bracket do you think you fitted into at that point?
I don't know. I don't think I was particularly in any category, but I think I was maybe like, because I had a lot of scrapbooks and sketchbooks, maybe I'm a collector or something like that.
They saw that willingness.
I'm bringing something in that other people didn't have necessarily. But again, I went for the interview. I had a really nice Johnson suit. It was like not turquoise, but powder blue suit. And I remember I went for the interview, and there was about 3 or 4 others were all sitting there waiting to go. And you got called upstairs to this fantastic ballroom that I was telling you about. And while I was sitting there, the door of the college opened, and who pokes their head in? My mum. And she'd come along to wish me luck. So she came and sat, and then it looked like I'd come to the interview with my mum.
You can laugh about that now, but presumably when you saw her,
I was so embarrassed. But God bless her. She knew it meant a lot to me, I guess. And
she wanted to support you.
Yeah.
That's very sweet, I think.
Yeah.
And then hindsight, that is, at the time, as a teenager or whatever you were.
There you go. I was
young man trying to get into art college and look cool and in your powder blue suit.
My fantastic suit.
Mum rocks in.
But I guess that's just funny.
So in this interview in the boardroom, was it similar to when you went before? Were they asking you similar questions about your influences?
They asked me what kind of books I was reading, and I happened to mention I'm very interested in the Spanish Civil War, and that seems to be the magic charm, because I think I also mentioned that at the Royal College interview. That was obviously the key.
The Spanish Civil War was the key.
At different times. So it
Yeah.
was the early 80s, and I think it was quite fashionable. So it's the same kind. It was very much very informal. It's very much nobody's really interested in what qualifications you've got. It's all looking at your work and what
How
kind
you
of
think.
person you are. And it's just what films have you seen? What do you like doing? A bit like this, really. I was just chatting
What were
about
the
stuff.
sort of film influences of that time?
Well, I liked Eraserhead. Hadn't been out that long. And I really like odd art house films. I like, gosh, what else was around? It was like The Man Who Fell to Earth, Bowie, almost a bit dreamlike
Surreal
kind of thing.
elements to it.
And I also, through the French Connection, not that I like the film The French Connection, but not that, there was a Cocteau film which Morrissey used to steal from that on one of his single covers, Orpheus. I think it was called Orphée. And that was really weird. It's all black and white, very surreal.
Arty.
Yeah, very art house. So I'd say art house kind of films. Yeah, and I'm not really I don't go to the cinema much. I don't really enjoy going to the cinema particularly. By the time I was 30, I'd probably only been to the cinema like a dozen times.
Interesting, bearing in mind that's quite a visual reference.
Yeah.
For a lot of people growing up, TV, film, cinema.
Yeah.
And were there any other students from East Ham attempting to get onto the course?
There was one other, I think. They really tried to put me off.
The people at East Ham? Or...
Yeah. So Nikos and Roger Jeffs were great, but there were a couple of cunts there that really not very nice.
Well,
Tell
must
me
be a
I
nice
wasn't-
feeling when you prove them wrong.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that helps, I guess. You need a bit of encouragement, but you also sometimes need
The toxic fuel.
Yeah.
It sounds bad, doesn't it? But yeah, that chip on your shoulder to go, fuck that person, I will do that.
I'll show them.
And you did. So you got onto your degree course at St Martin's,
Yep.
the one that you wanted to do.
Yep.
What does that look like for you? What sort of work are you creating? What are you learning?
Not a lot, because I absolutely loved just being there. And I'm a bit of a slow learner, and I'm one of those people that tend to fall through the cracks. If I miss something, I was too shy to say I didn't quite get that, and so I would just bluff along. So there's a few things that I wasn't very good at, and I missed the technical side of it, and that used to hold me up a bit. I would procrastinate and not finish things for some reason. They were always saying you're doing all these scrapbooks and sketchbooks, and you need to get that out of there and on
to some sort of finished piece.
And I
collection.
just couldn't seem to do that.
Was that some sort of paradox of choice? You've always had too much in the sketchbooks.
No, I think it's there's like a fear of committing to the final thing, whereas in the book it's safe and just incomplete, so you haven't got to worry about saying that's the finished thing.
And is that something to do with your own perception of the work, or is that how it's viewed by others? When it's in your sketchbook, it's safe. It's just an idea, but when you present it,
I don't mind showing people when it's in the.
But that's what I mean. In a final idea, people go, "Oh, well, actually, I don't like that colour. I don't like that." You get the judgment.
Yeah, and it was a real problem. I don't know why.
How did that work in terms of things like the critiques at college and things like that? When
they say you need to finish it, and I'd get put on probation because I would not commit to it and finish. And I don't know. I think it's just a kind of because I was so shy as a kid. I can't quite put my finger on it, and it seems strange now, but at the time, looking back, I just couldn't do it.
It's an experience thing. Like you say, you're a young art student finding your way. To put yourself out there in a final piece is hard for any artist, any creative. Is that something that's come with experience, with confidence?
I just didn't have any confidence. I still don't have any confidence.
If you've ever listened to this podcast, we talk a lot about the universal imposter syndrome.
Yeah, very much. Yeah. But just confidence in anything. I can remember when I was working at ID in my mid to late 20s, the editor took me to a dinner party once. Everybody at the table was like brilliant, and I don't think I said a word. I just thought, wow, I'm so out of my league. And they were all talking about really cool stuff that I just didn't know about. Not in the same intellectual league as these people.
Then is that how you felt at college as well, at university, St Martin's?
No, I didn't. I thought I was I was brilliant, but I just couldn't finish anything.
So you had your own limitations that perhaps you didn't realise you were putting on yourself.
You got to remember that there was no computers and stuff. Everything was hand done. So if you had to work out how you were going to make this look finished, and there were like a few techniques, like we'd photocopy things and use acetate, but it was the mock-ups, you couldn't actually, like you can now, just quickly.
Was it the same appropriating images, collection of stuff? What was the work?
I really got into kind of mid-century images, very graphic. I think because the only tool that I had was a photocopier. And so St Martin's had this amazing cupboard in the library that was just full of Life magazine from about 1930 to about 1960. And I spent all my time in the library just flicking through, looking at all these ads, and they're all like black and white and very graphic use of line and halftones. And so I would just enlarge these things and get all the dots up big. And
Did you notice the correlation between what your father did and you doing this at the time? There's definitely that crossover, right?
I remember going to his workplace a bit later, but I noticed they had this room with about 8 screen print beds in it, and they were only using 2. And then before I went to art school, he got made redundant and he went into a completely different job. So I did a bit of screen printing, and I thought, you know what, if he was still there, I bet half of those tables are not, I could just go in the summer and just print. But unfortunately, he was no longer there. And funny enough, we had to do a screen print project, and they gave you 2 words that you had to put together and then make an image and print it. And the words I got was macabre and banana. And so what I did is I had a peeled banana, and the top bit I turned into like a shark's head. And in Sydney, they have a big sculpture event called Sculpture by the Sea every year at Bondi, and it's all along the cliff tops. And last year, someone had a peeled banana with a shark's head coming out of it that was exactly the same as that print from 30 years ago, and someone made it, and it looked great. I just thought, wow, that's the same idea. That's coincidence. I mean, that guy would not see my first year print project.
No. But interesting.
I guess, yeah, it's...
So you're struggling to finish pieces. It's collecting, it's screen printing, it's...
Well, the screen printing's...
Life magazines. Creating your visual library in your brain, right?
I guess what it was also, I couldn't quite work out what I wanted to do. I knew what I wanted it to look like, but for some reason I couldn't quite get it on paper. It didn't look like how I saw it in my mind.
Yeah, we've discussed that before. If you've got an image in your brain and you know how you want it to look and you're not sure you can get it there, maybe it's better to stay in the brain. Maybe that's why you didn't finish.
It was.
That's why you didn't finish.
It was weird. But obviously by the 3rd year, I got some stuff together that I was quite pleased with. And
you're starting to develop some sort of style at this point.
Yeah, I had quite a style.
Can you say more about that? What sort of style was that?
Well, it was a bit, I guess it was a bit pop art-ish. If I looked at it now, I'd go, God, it's terrible. But at the time, I thought it was quite of its time. It's very 80s of its time. But I really felt like I wasn't ready to go out into the workforce. But I did a placement at a place called Red Ranch. And that really opened my eyes.
What was Red Ranch?
It was a little studio that was doing really cool record sleeves and film posters. And I remember one of the jobs they were doing, Nightmare on Elm Street, that had just come out. They were doing the posters for that. And they was just 2 young guys running the studio, and just watching them, like they had music playing really loud. And then when someone would ring up, they would turn it all off, and then they would pick the phone up and be very professional. Yeah. Exactly. And I'd watch them, they'd be clients ringing up saying, where's that work? And they go, it left 10 minutes ago, so with a courier. And then they're still frantically working on it, and the courier's standing over there in all his leathers, getting really hot. That was the other thing. Everything got sent everywhere by courier. And it was just great watching them getting to do real projects.
On the job stuff.
Yeah. And so that's when I started to learn things. And then we also got Karen Franklin from ID Magazine came in and set a project. And nobody did it, I don't think, except for me. It was like a magazine layout. And so she offered me a placement at ID.
How old was ID at this point?
Been going about 5 years.
So still in its infancy.
Yeah, it was still very exciting there. And so again, then I started to learn. It was doing all the paste up that you used to have to do. I mean,
layouts and all those.
But unbelievable! It was so unbelievable how labour intensive. I mean, there used to be a lot of money in design because it was. You just forget how it's so easy now.
Like you said before, computers and publishing software and all that sort of stuff. It had to be mocked up and laid out by.
You would be given a typewritten sheet with all the words for the article. You'd have to count that, and then you would get a book that had different typefaces at different sizes. So you knew what size the type had to be in the layout. So you would photocopy all this body copy in that size and stick it on a board and work out how many words are in that and how many words are in the article. And then you'd get the layout. Then you would send that copy off to come back as galleys of the real type, stick that in, and that would be just on paper. And then when you got the layout right, you would send it off and it would come back as a bromide. You're on about your third time of sticking all this down. And then photographs, they were either transparencies, in which case you had to project them against the wall, trace them on a bit of paper, and then photocopy those up to the size you wanted them on the page. Or if they were prints, you would just photocopy them to the size. And then they would be all stuck on the board, all in black and white. And then you put tracing paper overlays with instructions to the printer of what colour you wanted stuff. And it was intense.
Very in-depth process then.
Yeah.
And is this what you were doing as an intern when you were
I was just giving like the regular pages, but it's just learning all your paste up techniques, because it's like being a surgeon. You'd have a surgical scalpel, a set square and parallel motion, and because everything had to be square, and you had these rotating pens.
There's some correlation between your technical drawing and
it's very technical. And any dirt would get picked up on the camera when it was photographed, so you had to be very precise and clean. And there were all these little tricks that you used. And some places would have people who just are called paste up artists, and they would just do that bit. The art director would do a rough layout, and they would, because it was so intense. Anyway, I feel I'm rambling off where we were. Sorry, I'm still at college, aren't I? So doing these placements and getting a bit better. But I wanted to, that's why I went to the Royal College. I thought I want to just polish up a bit. But when I went to the Royal College, it was just like going back to the first year at St Martin's. It would seem to be an identical thing. They give you all these kind of crazy projects, and they were the same kind of thing that they do in the first year. That's very fun.
But once you presumably have developed a bit of a style, you're looking to go on to progressive.
And the thing is that what I really I needed some mentoring, really, and I didn't get it. And I'm always missing what's going on. And the thing about the Royal College was you go there, you do your own thing, and you develop that, and you're very much self, which I wasn't. You just got a desk, not even any drawing boards or anything. It's just like a table. And so there's a room with a load of tables in it. You just go and sit in that. And then you get a set project like design a motorway signage system. And I'd go into this room and there'd be nobody there. And I'd think, am I missing a lecture or something? And everyone would just be off doing their own thing. So I used to go over to the Natural History Museum, which was literally the other side of the road. I'd go in there and look at dinosaurs, and that's how I'd spend my day. And so by the end of the year, I hadn't really produced anything. So they said, look, we'll give you a certificate for a year, just don't come back.
So what did you do at that point? Where did you feel you were going to take your creativity, your art?
I don't know. I was just like, that was all a bit of a disappointment. I was a bit lost. I thought, I don't know what to do now. I've run out of college.
Yeah, I
was trying to extend college because I didn't really know where I wanted
to go.
The
perpetual student.
And so, like in so many things in my life, I just keep going for too long until somebody stops it, and that's the next thing. So I went to a party and I bumped into Karen Franklin again. I said, I've been asked to leave the Royal College. And she said, oh, no. He said, we had a job going as a designer on the magazine. We've just taken someone on. But if you want to just come in and help out or even just hang out there, he said, it'd be much better if you were applying for jobs to say I'm at ID than just sitting at home in your bedroom. So I started, I guess you'd call it a placement kind of thing, or internship, or whatever they call it now.
For free? Were they paying you?
No, I was doing it for free, but just so that I could say I was there. And it was enjoyable. And then...
What was the atmosphere like around ID at that point?
It was like a lot of people coming in. They had offices in Covent Garden. So I walked to work, and it was I think it was an old school or something. It was upstairs. It was just like one big room with a kitchen. Photographers were always coming in, designers were always coming in, lots of really interesting...
It's a creative hub.
Yeah, because it was all new as well, and seeing how a magazine works, it was really exciting.
What's the biggest takeaway you think you took from interning and seeing all of this?
I think it's more like you're just exposed to what's going on and who's doing what, and seeing creative people. And
your inputs have suddenly increased.
Because I'm not really a fashion kind of person. So there was a lot of really interesting fashion. I was into the design, and the thing about ID magazine was it started by a designer, an art director. started by Terry Jones. He used to work on Vogue as the art director, but he was a bit held back. He couldn't do I think punk had just started and he wanted to do some really exciting stuff and they wouldn't let him do what he wanted to. So he started his own magazine, ID. And the great thing about it is because it's run by an art director designer, that held the most sway. So if the editor said, I want to do this, and the designers wanted, it always tended to go the designer's way. And just interesting stuff. I've never worked anywhere like that where the owner or the editor, is on your side as a designer. Famously, someone would write an article, and if it was too long, he'd just slice the bottom off, and it would end mid-sentence because all he's interested in is how it looked, how it framed, how it was sitting on the page. Just get rid of that, toss that bit away. It's incredibly exciting.
Did that give you some sort of freedom?
Yeah, and it started to give you a bit more confidence because you could experiment. It was all about experimenting and feeling like you were having some input and there's encouragement.
So how does that internship turn into...
Oh, because I was only there about 4 weeks and the designer went to work at Vogue. So there was a lot of, there was the face and ID, and a lot of people started on those and then they would work their way up to higher positions in bigger magazines where there's better salary. So they didn't pay very well. And so that was the other thing. I had a part-time job. A friend of mine worked in an underground car park in Covent Garden. And he got me a job there. And it was working at weekend, just sitting in a box collecting money. But it was 2 12-hour shifts, 12 hours on Saturday, 12 hours on Sunday. And then I used to work 2 nights a week at McDonald's. So it's like a 71-hour week. On top of that, I'm 20 or something. I'm going out on having fun Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. So I'm probably exhausted all the time, which didn't help. I stopped doing the McDonald's thing, but the salary was so poor. I kept that up for a couple of years where I was working at ID 5 days a week and still doing these 2 days at the Cup. So I was working 7 days a week and I lived in Gray's Inn Road. And on one corner was the car park I worked at, and the other corner was the ID offices. And St Martin's was just a little bit further. It was all in this, just even though I was still not living there, I felt like Covent Garden was my village kind of thing. That's possibly caused some of those problems at college. And I'm just...
burnt out.
Yeah, it was a very interesting place, this car park.
I feel like there's some stories.
There are, yeah. So during the week, this car park, it was these 3 geezers, like Cockney geezers that worked down there, and they showed us lots of tricks, really, which I probably won't go into. But yeah, we could boost our earnings a bit. But I was in a bubble of innocence. And they took a shine to me, partly because sometimes girls from college would come down to see me, and they were impressed by that. But they were quite serious. I didn't realise how serious they were. And one of them went to prison for 6 months for assaulting a police officer. And he was a small man, but he could be quite aggressive. And he was lovely. He was so good.
If he was on your side, he was great.
He was so good to us. But there were some serious things going on. But
what life lessons are you learning at this point in this?
Well, you just becoming more aware of the real world, because literally was in like this little bubble. And I think that's saved me in a lot of things. You're not taken as a threat or anything, or I think that's
what were these, shall we say, hard men's attitude towards you being an artist?
They weren't hard men. They were just doing things which would have
fallen into some grey areas, shall we say?
Yes, and he did offer me a firearm when I started there, but I thought he was joking.
So you were in this bubble, but you were seeing some stuff that I guess very real world.
Yeah, but I just took it all in my stride then, because I was just a young guy, didn't know anything.
Did you use any of that time when you were in the car park to do creating? Were you drawing, sketching?
I read a lot, because you're just sitting in a box. And I used to they had these big illuminated ads in there, and I used to use that as a light box to trace on. But it was quite hard. There wasn't the space to really do much down there. And to be honest with you, I used to really look forward to Monday, because I'd be at college. And I think I was so exhausted from going out, and then I'd often go clubbing or something and go straight to the car park in the morning and just sleep in a chair for 2 hours. And I'd just be tired all the time. And it was a place to sleep and catch up on not doing anything.
So you're hanging out at ID?
Yes. And Terry Jones offered me a job there. Yeah. He
What was the job?
It was like a designer doing the layout. And I showed him my portfolio and I said, I don't really know much about all the technical aspect. And that was the bit he liked, his Maverick. So what he liked was the energy and not the fact that it was technically competent, because he wasn't really interested in that side of it. His whole thing was that it should be, which is something that I've taken with me, is he likes things to be an element of discovery to it. So that the reader has to work hard. Like you look at a lot of magazines now and it's very, and I think it's partly an effect of the digital age. It's like, it's white pages, very easy to read, just a square picture, and not very visually interesting. Whereas ID was put the type over the top of the picture. You can't see it in a certain light. There's red, blue, and clashing, lots of visually eye-hurting kind of stuff. And that was its charm. But that idea of letting the reader discover something for themselves makes them more amenable to what you're doing, because they feel like they're the only one who's found it. They've had to work a bit harder, and it's their discovery. That's what kind of, you get a bit of loyalty from that. And so I'm very much into that kind of, I'm going to say mystery. It's not really, but it's just a bit more,
So how long were you working at ID for?
All right, so then I worked there for about 3 years, I think. And then, there was a guy there I was working with, Stephen Mayo, and we got on really well. And after we'd been there for a while, we thought, well, let's do our own thing.
But what was the catalyst to go, we're going to do our own thing?
Because I think we had the same tastes. We had the same kind of sense of humour, because we were working on layouts together. It's just the two of us. I think we just worked well together. We just wanted to do our own stuff, because the money was not great. Apart from that, I can't really remember. I just think that it was a natural thing to do. You work there and then you go off and do.
And what does your own thing look like with you?
Well, so what we did is we weaned ourselves off it. So ID now had moved to Shoreditch. This is about 1989, and there was nothing at Shoreditch then. It was bleak, really bleak. No one was really happy about going there.
Pre-gentrification.
Yeah. There was one sandwich shop. There were still bomb sites, and the pubs all had blacked out windows, dance poles. There was 2 pubs that you could go in, I think. And that was it. There was just nothing, no shops, no cafes, no restaurants, just a lot of boarded up.
A very different Shoreditch to we know now.
And we were in this big old building, and it was me and another friend of mine, so there's 3 of us. And we took an office upstairs above ID, and then we were still actually doing the design on ID, so it was, but
as your own entity,
as outsiders kind of thing. Yeah, so it was really handy because we were just the floor above, but we could also then do our own stuff. Then we just went to the bank and got an overdraft for £10,000, I think, and that's what we used as capital to get going. But we couldn't think of a name, so we called ourselves Ideal. That was our first name, and then we thought, oh, that's a bit too close to ID. So we thought, let's call ourselves Smart. I think we called ourselves Get Smart. I don't know why we went with that. I can't remember. But we thought, oh, well, let's make it a bit more professional, so we'll call it Smart Associate. Then this guy came round and he said, oh, my name's Ricky Smart and I've got a design business 4 doors down and I'm called Smart Associates. And I went, oh, okay. It's your name, so you have that. The other guy I worked with, Richard, he'd been doing these certificates and he'd been playing with first, second and third, which were what was going on the certificate. And while he was, because it was all pasted up still, while he was playing about, he put the 3 from third next to the ST of first and got Thirst. I thought, oh, that's a great name. So we called ourselves 3ST Thirst. Then we got a call from this guy in America who said, I've got a design company called 3ST Thirst. So it's a bit like that Spinal Tap thing, we called ourselves the Originals. There was already a band called the Originals. And then somebody else came up with an idea and said, why don't you call yourself Nice? It's so bland, no one will have it. And they were right. That's because you couldn't have it because it's so bland you can't register it. So we had to register Nice of London Limited, but we just called ourselves Nice.
What elements of the 3 of you working for ID did you take into your own agency?
Well, because we would get some of the people that advertised in ID, I guess we were doing the same style of graphics and appealing to kind of youth things, fashion, music.
Street culture.
Yeah, and we did a lot of magazines as well. So we did a magazine for British Airways, young flyers, and they just wanted something a bit more youth focused. So that's what we did. That was our thing. And we had this very cool office. And I think people in these corporate companies, they just like turning up and hanging out in the office with us. And that was part of the charm.
So the work's varied, but of that same pop culture, youth
Yeah,
culture.
we were very influenced by a lot of like 60s and 70s graphics.
Hey, sorry for interrupting. This is just a quick reminder that if you're enjoying this episode, there are a couple of really easy ways that you can support the podcast. You can hit the support the show link in the show notes, or consider grabbing yourself something from the Creative Noahland shop on the website. And don't forget, community members get free shipping on all orders. So, before you buy anything, be sure to join. Thanks again for being part of the Creative Noahland community, and now, let's get back into it. And the work that you're producing through Nice, that was all of your own making, wasn't it? It's like they were coming to you because they wanted this Nice studio style, this youth culture.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going out getting work, but what I'm saying is people aren't getting you to do something that you don't do. It's like the way it was then is you brand yourself by your style of work, and you would get jobs based on your style. That's why they would come to you. They wouldn't come to you and then say, can you make it look like this or like that? It would be, you'd be there specifically because they like what you'd already done for somebody else.
And you're working for clients like Levi's, Wranglers, music.
Converse, yeah. And then different record companies. But
Who's got MC Eric?
MC Eric. We did something for a band called Candy Flip, who they had a #1 hit with a Beatles cover.
But was that quite good for your creative egos to go, we can do what we want to do? Not where as opposed now it's, we need X image for this format that is for this and shows the product at 3/4 angle.
I just think they were just simpler times. People didn't overthink it so much.
Do you think that's a problem now? Or...
I think now a lot of design is dry, boring. And
what was it about that time that you felt made the design much more interesting?
There was a lot going on and lots of people doing experimental stuff, and it was just quite an explosion of it. So that was the norm, really. It was, you could really see the difference between something that looked a bit old and stodgy, and because they weren't doing something new. And so a lot of things were getting revamped. I think that's what it felt like.
Did you feel like you were innovators of that time?
I don't know if we were, but I feel like, because a lot of people, everybody was doing, there's lots of similar little groups around, all doing their own thing with a certain style.
Was there a competitive nature? Were you all trying to out-design each other in a sense?
I don't think that, no, I think it was quite a good, I used to meet socially and compare notes, and it was quite good, what's the word? Nobody was like hostile, everybody would.
Yeah. I'm doing this for
but you'd say, you should use this guy, or someone came in to see us, you see that person. There's a lot of that going on.
What were some of the adverts you were doing for, say, Levi's, Wrangler, Converse, some of these big brands?
Well, for them, we do a lot of brochures and catalogue, all their quite big projects, because it was like every product that they sell. But, you could do stuff with the covers and section things. And then we started doing all their store windows, and so they'd have a theme and they got a match. So that's fun. You're out collecting, because it's like getting props and stuff to put in the windows. And then there'd be lots of posters and point of sale, which is more interesting kind of stuff.
How long were you guys creating at Nice?
So we went for, I think, just under 5 years. And then Stephen Mail didn't want to do it anymore. It was a partnership, so we just disbanded.
I suppose within this, I should ask, are you creating any work personally at this point, or is it all just about the design agency, the work that you're creating for the job?
So that's a good point. So at this point, I am now in super collecting mode, I guess. So this is
what does that look like? Is that a Channel 4 hoarding documentary?
We've got a huge library of books and magazines, but a lot of old magazines, and then we've got a huge collection of really shit vinyl that is purely for the covers. They got terrific covers, but the music is awful. And you can pretty much bet the better the cover,
the shit of the music.
Yes. And so this is before there was any of those books that came out with Vinyl Junkyard and all those places. So if you didn't have a collection of stuff, there's nowhere to go because there's no internet. So most design studios would have this kind of their own reference. So we'd have all these old books and magazines you can flick through and get ideas. So that's why you start collecting, because it's all reference. That literally see something laying on the street and like, you think, oh, that's quite interesting. And so I'd pick that up and keep it, put it in a scrapbook. And I remember as a studio, we went on holiday to Amsterdam for New Year, and big firework things there. It's a bit crazy. They just let them off and you along the street and you've got to duck out of the way. But then New Year's Day, with a screaming hangover, I just spent the day going around all the streets of Amsterdam, fishing out damp fireworks out of the gutter, taking them all back to the hotel and soaking all the labels off these fireworks, just keeping the labels for visual reference because they were badly printed, great colours, And that's why am I interested in all these things that are out of register? I don't know, but that's
the constant through the whole story.
So one of the things about working at ID, no computers, all done, as I told you, like black and white. So we would get a colour proof for the cover, but for the rest of the magazine, we couldn't afford any proofs. So bearing in mind, you've just written stuff on tracing paper saying, can I have that headline in this colour? Can you make the copy this colour on this colour background? You didn't see it till it started coming off the press. So it's actually being printed now. And if it came out wrong, it's too late. It's already there. So the boards with all the type stuck on it and the actual transparencies and the prints would all get sent to the reproduction house, and they would scan all those things in and put the layout together and then make 4 separations, which would be cyan, magenta, yellow and black. And I'd get sent those 4 films and I'd just have to look at them on a light box and try and work out.
Imagine them.
Yeah, imagine them in colour.
Yeah.
So then I would have to go to the printers once a month, and because we didn't have any money, it was always overnight. And I would literally just sit in a bucket seat in a printer's from like 10 o'clock at night till 6 o'clock the next morning. And then I would watch it coming off the press. It'd be the first time I've ever seen it in colour.
Once you're in that position, you can't do anything, presumably.
I'm not allowed. I've been told not to stop the press because it's incredibly expensive. All you can do is look at the colour balance and try and boost some colours or play some down and make sure it's even. So it really, there's not a lot you can do. But it's so exciting seeing this stuff come off. So the first ones that come off are just printed in yellow. And then it comes out yellow and magenta, and then yellow, magenta and blue, and then all 4 colours. But the first ones that come off, they print on something they've already printed, and they overprint it because they don't want to waste paper. And you get these amazing things of
overlays and
type stuck over photos, which is not. This is completely random design now because you haven't designed.
Yeah, it's the mistakes.
It's just your graphics printed over something they've already got, but you get these amazing things happening. I would just take all those and then all these bits where they've only printed 2 of the layers, not all of them, and we'd use those as reference and go, look how good those 2 colours look just together without the type all over it or without black in it, or that photograph with only.
So is this the start of you to create?
Yeah, so all this interesting stuff, that's where I'm starting to build up a palette of ideas of things that I really like and want to experiment with. And that out of register stuff is partly the stuff coming off the press because they're just building up to getting it all in register. So a lot of that's out of register, and it's quite, I can't think of the word. So it's not static. The fact that it's out of register, and that gives it a lot of action, vitality. And that's what I quite like about it, I think. Plus something about mistakes that slightly out of your control. And this could be because I haven't actually done it. I've done it, but it's not quite how I thought it was going to be because there's a mistake element. Somehow that's taken the responsibility off me, and so I like it better.
Is there something in that lack of responsibility that goes back to you not finishing pieces?
That's what I'm getting at, yeah. I think that's what it is like.
You've created the idea, but someone's actualising it, and actually it's come out not how you imagined it.
And so because it's like someone else has done it, then I'm okay with it. It's just me doing it that's the problem. And so that little bit of chance and that little mistake is like somebody else's hand. It's like the hand of God just changing it. And then I'm okay with that because I can't punish myself. And it's weird, isn't it? I don't know. That's the wrong word. It's just that bit being a little bit random.
Is there something, if you're not fully responsible for it, you can't be fully judged for it?
That's what I meant. Yeah. Yeah.
So how do we go from that, where it is attention to detail, design studio, but you're finding these imperfections and the responsibility is almost gone? That's for client work. Then you're taking these things that are the collections.
I don't know if these are all for client work. This is more me thinking about my own stuff down the track.
But where does that come from? Because presumably when you're in it as a design studio, it's day to day. We're running the design studio. It's all about that. Going back to my original question,
Yes.
were you creating art?
Well, no. I'm building up this palette of things to do and I'm collecting stuff and it's just building up.
So your visual library, you're just topping up those visual influences.
I had a big filing cabinet, which was just all little drawers and it's just all like crap in it.
But were you aware that you were doing that with the future focus on creating, or was it just that is just your habit by the sounds of it from day one of collecting all these?
I guess I always wanted to do something with it. That was the thing. Like this will come in handy. I like the look of that, and so it was to use in jobs. But there was so much of it. It was not, and you can't always use what you've got for.
But that collection, that almost hoarding of ideas, hoarding of visual resources, is evident throughout your whole story. The scrapbooks, all of that.
And we'll come to that probably now. So when Nice is finishing...
What triggered the end of Nice Studios and you guys all working in that sense together?
Because it's like a marriage thing. And then one partner doesn't want to do it anymore. So the whole thing disbands.
It ran its course.
I was still enjoying it. But by this stage, I discovered Australia. So before I couldn't entertain ever going to Australia really because what we were doing here. But then when we disbanded the thing, it was like now I've got freedom.
What year was that when you disbanded?
So that was 94. Yeah, 94, 95. And
what do you mean you say you discovered Australia?
I'd never thought about Australia in my life before. And
what happened that made Australia come into the forefront of your mind?
I'd met someone and she was Australian. And so she went back to Australia. I went to see her a couple of times and it just coincided, I think, with all my peer group. Because when you're in London, there's people from all over the country and then gradually they all start going, people were going overseas, people were going back to where they came from. And because there was just three of us working in this studio, it's not like you got friends at work, it's just the three of you. And I just realised I didn't have much of a social world. People I used to hang out with are all gone places. I felt like I knew more people in Sydney than I did in London. It's a weird kind of thing. And it wasn't like I thought, that's it, I'm just going there. It was like a weird glitch in the matrix and I suddenly found myself in Australia.
So when did you move to Australia?
96.
And what does that look like? Do you go to Australia going, I'm going to start a design studio over here. I'm going to stop the design. I'm going to do my art. I'm going to use all these collection of images and visual resources that I've got in my arsenal. Do something else.
This is quite interesting because this is coinciding with the internet, computers coming in, mobile phones. So when I went there, I didn't have a mobile phone. I didn't have an email address. And then when I got there, I did some magazines. I did some teaching and stuff. But then I got a studio and I bought a scanner and a Mac. And then I just started scanning in all this stuff I'd been collecting. So it all went with me. And it was quite an exciting period because I was putting all this stuff into a place where I could start playing with it. And then it was so much easier than like collage stuff. You can play with the scan and you can start to do all kinds of things.
And were you noticing a style coming to the forefront? Were you noticing, I'm not picking that sort of thing, I'm more picking, this half tone?
Yeah, so I'm using these kind of, mainly, what I'm drawn to slightly unusual things, are things that make me smile. If I flick through a magazine and there's a photo of someone and it just cracks me up, I think that's a great image. Or
there's definitely an undertone of comedy about all of this.
But there's just this quite quirky, unusual, ambiguous stuff is what I'm looking for usually. And that's what I say, like I take things out of context. You find an interesting headline or something, and then you put it with a photo from somewhere else, see whether that gels or gives it a new meaning, really.
And as you're doing these scans, this almost compiling this huge amount of visual research that you've done over years and years, presumably of scrapbooks and sketchbooks, are you doing that to go, right, I'm going to make art to sell, to pay my way, or are you just thinking, I just want to create? Because you said you did some teaching, some layouts and magazine stuff when you're in Australia.
Yeah.
What does that look like? A Brit moving to Australia going, I'm taking my skill set and how am I earning money? How am I?
So it was a different world then, because as I say, we're just on the cusp of all the internet thing. So they're very interested in anybody. I don't know if they still have actually, but they used to have a thing where everything from outside is brilliant and everything here is not so good.
Is that human nature? Grass is all
Well, it is,
greener?
but it's particularly an Australian thing where they always think, and I think it goes right back to everything came on boats, so everything's coming in. So it's, yeah, the stuff coming in is going to be the newest and the best and that kind of thing until you get to the new technology thing when suddenly it doesn't matter where you are. And that's what's changed the outlook, I think.
So are you some sort of a novelty?
So you get, if you like, people very want to see what you've been doing in your portfolio because you're out of their, it's a small place, everybody knows each other.
Did your pedigree with design and working for magazines like ID, did that give you a gravitas when you went over there?
Yeah, I think
a sort of social proof.
Yeah.
Because obviously that shows that you understand the commercial aspects of design, print, layout, all those things. So easy crossover to do that again in Australia. But what's the moment that you go, okay, let's make some art?
Right. Well, that is, as I said, accessibility to technology and better Macs. So the Mac we had at NICE was the first one, that little box for the thing.
It's a strange sort of grey beige colour.
So it was one of those. And you could only do black and white. If you put a picture in, it would take forever. And just storage disks didn't have much. And then it got better every year. It's getting better and better. And then it got to the point where you could start scanning images in and playing around with them on screen. And that just happened to coincide with me being in Australia in a studio full of all my stuff. So I'm literally just everything taking it down and seeing what it looked like scanned in and played with. And so that was not for anything except me to see what it looked like,
what the capabilities were.
Yeah, what have I got here? What am I doing with it? And then I started thinking, these might make good greetings cards or things like that. So I started doing cards.
And what sort of work was there? That underlying comedy element again, like putting headlines and images together.
It's all funny stuff. There wasn't the kind of explosion of stuff there is now. Greetings cards were a bit crappy then. What else was I doing?
Do you remember like a first piece of art?
I did these kind of, again, this is going back to the ID thing. I started about overprinting. That was my thing. So taking one image in yellow and putting a transparent red over the top of that with another image and then another blue image. And so they all were see-through. Just doing loads of that, just all these different images, putting them all over the top of each other and seeing what that
Would you say
like.
You're in very much an experimentation?
Yeah.
Right, just finding a flow, finding a way of working.
And I found it quite exciting because I hadn't really seen all these images together. They were all like black and white, mainly black and white things that I was now doing in colour. So I started making little zines, little booklet. And they're a bit like scrapbooks. I'm just quite random playing around. And then if I get something I quite liked, that would be the page layout. And a bit like when you get writer's block, you just see what happens. And then think maybe later I'll be able to use that for something.
There's always this sketchbook mentality, this research. I'll put that together because I might be able to use that later.
Sketchbook is a big thing.
Do you still make sketchbooks, collect?
Yes. Well, I have to sit on my hands now and not. I've got so much stuff. But sketchbooks and scrapbooks, not so much. I do it all on screen. Right. But I've got so much stuff, I'm now starting to go back to doing collages. There is something about actual real things stuck together as opposed to just on screen. And it's a lot harder because you only get one go at it. You can only do what it is. You can't change the scale like you can on screen.
And at this point, are you considering yourself an artist or a designer? So are you making a living from your art, or are you still coinciding that with the design work that
No,
you do?
so I'm still doing design work, and the art thing is not quite there yet. But I started from these zines and things. I made a set of stickers, and then the same image. It's like an Australian guy in a slouch hat, and I started pasting them up. I don't know what I'm going to do with these, and
Pasting them at where? On the streets?
yeah.
How early is this? Is street art a thing?
Well, it's a thing. Yeah, it's already a thing. We're in the 2000s now, and
what was it? Why did you start to paste these things?
well, because I think the internet is still. I don't think there's Instagram yet.
Oh God, no.
Well, it was a bit like it's not 2000.
Smartphones came sort of 2012 sort of time.
2008, I think they were in.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think there was Flickr or something like that. It was on Flickr.
Just visual sharing.
Yeah,
on the internet, but not to the same level that we've got now.
I made this book. That's right. I did this big book of all these things I'd scanned. I didn't quite know what to do with them, so I'd done that. And
was that just a natural progression from all your layouts and magazines?
Yeah, I just wanted to do a book of all this stuff, and I took it round, and it would be too expensive or too hard, or you need a theme or something. It was just like
too random.
It's just stuff. I just was a bit frustrated, and there were no galleries I could put stuff in, so I just thought I'd stick it up just so people could see it. Really,
is that just the artist mentality? You just want to share the work?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not a designer's mentality.
This is where the crossover's starting to come in. It's a different thing because you're not doing it for any reason. It's not like for a client, and you're absolutely bombarded with shitty advertising everywhere. And yet, if you put a bit of art up, it gets taken down, or it's vandalism. And it's like that. There's so much terrible advertising everywhere. And that's not. Nobody worries about that because there's someone's paying. That's all it is. You're not paying.
Did you find that harder or easier not having a brief or not having a paying client?
It's hard because it's just you.
Decision's yours.
Yeah, but by this stage now, obviously, I'm just getting on with it now. I must have overcome that.
But I just think back to how you not being able to finish a piece, not being able to go, this is where I'm going to take all of this collection of images and put it into X.
Yeah, I think so. Partly the pressure was off. So you're just putting stuff up, and then it's almost like experiment. You don't care. So you just any idea that I would have, I'd go and paste it up and see if it got any attention.
And was that important, having the pressure taken off?
I don't know if it was important. It's just that's what it is. It's going to last 5 minutes. You paste it up, it's gone. Doesn't matter. It's not like it's there forever for you to keep being reminded that. I mean, there's this thing where you look back on old stuff and you go, "Oh, that type should have been slightly bigger," or "I did it so quickly, the spacing's a bit off." And every time I can't look at it without seeing that thing in it.
But yet you were drawn a lot to the imperfections in the work.
Yeah, because these are like not the imperfections I wanted. These aren't cool imperfections. These are just mistakes. So we'll get to that because so when it comes to printing, I build in imperfections. I deliberately add a register, but then something will happen on the background and I'll get annoyed because that isn't the mistake that I wanted there to be.
It wasn't the intentional mistake that you were implying.
And no one else can see it because the whole thing is, I know it. And it's taken me a while to just go with that because screen printing there's so many opportunities for things to go wrong. Yeah. And the thing is, you get annoyed with something because I couldn't get it quite right, and then you forget about it and look at it months later, and you've forgotten about it, and you just think, "Oh, that's and then cool." You can't replicate it when you think, "Oh, I'll do that again," and you can't because you can't remember, partly because it was out of your control, how you actually did that, or how you got that color, or so that's the thing I like about it's like you do it once, you can't revisit. That's the nature of it. It's a moment in time done. That's the addition. And that's what I guess makes it a unique kind of medium.
So you've put together this book of stuff that no one wants to print for you or make.
Yeah.
Is that when you go, maybe screen printing would be an easier route rather than trying to put a magazine?
No, actually, so I'm trying to think how this all panned out. I just remember, I don't know why I wanted to make stickers and paste ups, but I think just when I started doing it, there was a big street art exhibition on an island in Sydney Harbour. It's like this great old industrial shipbuilding complex. But it's just really interesting buildings and it's half derelict. Anyway, they had a big, huge street art exhibition there and they had a paste up room, which was like a big old turbine hall, and they just smothered it in paste ups. And the guy organising that had seen my stuff up and invited me to be involved in that. And then that's when I got really interested in pasting up.
And what was it that you were pasting up? What was the work that you were creating?
It was just this like little character I'd done. I can't remember why I did. It was just something I thought I found this image of this Australian guy and put some type on it. And I think I was thinking like Shepard Fairey's obey thing. It's just like repetition. So I had all these different colours and variations.
What was the text you put on it?
I think it said good day, just says good day, Australian guy. But in this big hall, it's hundreds of people's paste ups all over the top of each other. So it becomes a walk-in scrapbook, and
right up your street.
Yeah, exactly. And everything's a bit obscured and not
bit of paint peeling off here. The glue hasn't stuck.
Yeah, someone stuck something a bit over you and you're a bit over. It's all in this big thing.
Does that go back to you taking those details of zooming in on those tiny elements and stuff?
Partly that, yeah. But partly just it looks like you're walking into a page of a scrapbook. And also my working environment looks like you're in a scrapbook. And that goes so right back to my flat on Gray's Inn Road. I covered the walls in toys which I bought for the packaging. It's all about the packaging. So all those cheap toys from Hong Kong, which were all out of register and badly printed, I had all those pinned to the wall. The whole place was smothered, and that was very much like a walk-in scrapbook. So that's a recurring theme, this
voracious hoarding of images.
Hoarding of images, but be it surrounding yourself in them.
When you're surrounding yourself with so much and so much varied stuff, do you then sometimes have trouble recollecting where the reference comes from because you've got so much stuff? Or are you like an encyclopedia of everything that you've collected?
Well,
I don't want to say just this I to J section.
Yes, that's a good comeback. When we had a wall of books at the night studio, I could remember which book that image was.
And that's almost like the extreme of when you were growing up with no books, no stimulus. The scrapbook is almost replaced that. I want books, I want visual stimulus, I want to collect everything, I want to hoard all those visual ideas that perhaps you didn't have as a child.
Could be that, yeah. I don't know why I want to surround myself with it. I know some people...
So going back to my original question, you've done this street art festival on the island in Sydney.
Yep.
In your mind, are you an artist or a designer?
No, I'm still a graphic designer doing a bit of paste up. And then I did, as everyone seems to do, I did one of those courses one day.
Printmaking
course. And...
Did that refresh the buzz of screen printing for you?
No, it's absolutely. And it's like it all was coming back. And that's where the thing about my dad being a screen printer started to... I hadn't really thought about it much before then.
Connected the dots.
And it all made sense and connected together. The mixing of the paint, I felt quite a connection to my dad then. And I bought a coat, very similar to this, a bit longer, because I found this photo of him in his print studio in the 1950s. And I thought, oh, yeah, that's a great... Because I get smothered in it. I'm a terrible printer. But it looks pretty cool. And I thought, oh, that's quite useful as well. And I couldn't find one because I think it's called a shop coat or
I know exactly the one you're talking about.
A warehouse coat. Yeah. And when I looked online, everything's high vis, especially in Australia. And I had to find somewhere here that still did those coats. A dying thing, which adds to the appeal because they're not many about. Yeah. And so then I started to really get into screen printing, but it's quite limited in Sydney. I can't find a vacuum table anywhere. It's all very much geared up towards fabric printing and not paper.
So how do you get around that?
Well,
do you have your own screen printing?
No, it's very much low tech, and I used to moan about it all the time.
But does that in some way add to some of the possibilities of future mistakes?
It does, but also I think it's just stop whining and learn how to use all the equipment properly on just a tabletop. And then when you master that, then you can go on to...
Well, it's like anything. Once you've got the mastery, you're allowed to make the mistakes.
Yeah, but it's like I'm moaning because I haven't got the proper equipment. So stop blaming the tools and just...
use the gear that's in front of you.
Use what I've got. And it's as good as... It's just not very good for bigger pieces. And because my stuff's quite deliberately out of register, it's not that big a deal. But annoyingly, occasionally I want to get for something I'm doing, just a really nice flat background. And by hand, it's all about the pressure and... anyway, I've got to stop moaning about it and just...
No, it seems to be working.
Doing
it. Seem to be...
I'm just at a point where I'm really enjoying it.
Is there a point in this journey where the change comes? You're no longer a designer, you consider yourself an artist. Or has that never happened? Are you toes in both worlds?
Now I just working as a designer, for me, I've found it getting more and more depressing. Just like everything just seems to be so controlled now and corporate.
And completely away from what you had at ID, where it was, let's just rip the bottom of that eyeglass. We need to look at the bollocks.
Fun has gone out of design, and design now just is like service, you know, it's
a
just
means to an end.
Yeah, it's just like you're just arranging stuff. There's no input. Here's our font, here's our colour. These are the type of pictures we can use.
And that is the industry, isn't it? I mean, when I first got into the photography industry, I got in because of the epic Guinness adverts where you make one beautiful image, one beautiful advert. You don't have to make 17 different frames of this format, that content for social media. There was still an art to it. And I've seen that, whereas, and hence maybe a little bit of myself diversifying.
I think because of all these formats now, and phone, tablet.
But my argument will be, surely in a saturated market, now is the time to do the thing that stands out, that puts you aside from everyone else. Who's brave enough to do that now?
I think there is a backlash now of everything is so accessible and easy that what's coming back is experience. People want an actual physical magazine because it's about the experience of having your coffee and flicking through a magazine, whereas just skimming through it on your phone is not the same.
And I think that's the same with everything, isn't it? I think myself and Carl spoke about this, how you see an image of Liechtenstein's Wham on a screen, you go, wow, that's so perfect. But you actually go and see it in the Tate and you go, oh, there's imperfection there, there's a pencil line there, there's this.
Yeah,
that human nature, that human error that you're
human
so
error,
into.
and also the fact that uniqueness. So
uniqueness, perfect.
Each print, even though they look pretty much the same, will have a slightly different, and you know that when you get a number off an edition, that it's
that pink spread slightly more on that.
There's going to be a slight, well, even just the number being written different on there is a difference. But it's about actually holding it, and I think with the way things are going with AI, you're going to get just photograph Brad Pitt from every different angle, record him saying every different word, and then he'll die, and they'll just keep making films with him in it using all this AI footage, and you won't need any real actors anymore. They'll just do everything. But so the thing will be going to the theatre and having the experience. That will be the same with music.
Hearing a live band and
seeing a live band and
ping his guitar string, or the drummer loses a drumstick. Yeah,
and it's unpredictable and it's unique, and you don't know what they're going to play, and
that's the experience, right?
And also you're actually seeing them and the vibe from the room, because the thing about all this is very solitary, isn't it? It's all people just like playing games online on their own, playing against people, but everybody's solitary because it's just no value. There's no value in it.
There's no story either.
No.
Look at this piece of art. It was made by AI, rather than look at this piece of art. It was made by Mr. Edwards.
But even look at this work of art by Mr. Edwards on screen is not the same as
no. And as I say, I'm sat looking at a tin that says "art is shit," and I'm now wondering to myself, I wonder whether there is shit actually in it. There's the story.
I wonder too.
There's the story, isn't it?
What, you wondering what's in it?
Yeah, essentially.
Well, there's a.
I don't know what I'm trying to say. I think
I know what you're saying. I get what you're trying to say. Yes, there is
is important.
Yes. No, that's real. That's sitting there, and you can
hold it
up
and touched it. Yeah.
Give it a shake, and
it's an idea that's come to fruition from your brain. Yes, based on Manzoni's stuff, but the story's there.
Yeah, I still don't know why I did that. We didn't clear that up, did we?
So it's just part of. I think a lot of the work that I see of yours is funny, comedic, play on words. It's got all those design, commercial, layout, text, type.
I do like a play on words, yeah.
But did we answer the question? Do you consider yourself an artist or a designer?
So now, as I say, I got disillusioned with doing design work, and when I went to college, I didn't know what I wanted to do at art school. The graphic thing I liked, but I don't think I wanted to be a graphic designer. I was kind of graphic artist was what I was always thinking, and probably I would have been happier as more of a kind of illustrator in a very graphic style. So I don't really think artist, or don't really put a name on it. I just think what I'm doing now is not graphic design particularly, because it's not really solving any problems.
But is that not what creativity is?
Well,
as a
creativity
whole?
is, but graphic design is a lot of it's to do with communication.
Delivering the message.
Which I suppose I am still trying to do, yeah. But so I don't know. I don't really think about it as
A tin that says artist shit on it. I think there's a message in that somewhere.
Well, there is, yeah.
Can you talk us through some of? I mean, you've got your Bowie Baby, Bat Smoker. These are some of the ones that seem to be.
Yeah, they're just things that make me chuckle. So the baby,
and it goes back. There's all comedy. There's a real comedy element.
I just found this picture of a baby that looked, its lip out looked funny. And I don't know why I thought, oh, let's make it a cyclops, but that made me chuckle even more. But I find that some people find it disturbing, especially women with
babies.
Children. Yeah, that worries them.
Really? Have you had that?
Yeah, because it was a T-shirt, and I did some markets, and yeah, women with prams really went out of their way to say they didn't like it. Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
Well, it doesn't bother me.
Well, it's getting that reaction.
Well, it's a reaction.
A reaction, whether good or bad, is essentially what art is, right?
Well, I do. I like the feedback that you think, oh, wow, some people, because it just amuses me. It doesn't scare me or worry me or anything like that. So I'm interested that some people actually have a strong reaction to it. But they're experiments, aren't they? I just put things together. I'm kind of looking for like icons.
That's the pop art, though, right?
That
familiar mixed with something.
So it is a bit familiar, but it's a bit disturbing and a bit. So the Bat Smoker one, I get a lot of people asking me who it is. I don't know who it is. Just found an image of a guy smoking. But they often ask me, "Is it?" and then list who they think it is. And I like that because it means different things to different people, obviously.
Yeah.
And I started using a lot of Arabic script, which was from found. So I had a lot of packaging, and
Why Arabic?
Because I really liked what it looks like. So graphically, it's really lovely, like calligraphy. And then we're getting back to that thing where you're a child and you can't read. So I'd say the Stern magazines we're talking about with the German. So when I was a kid, I had this Bible in colour, and I couldn't read. So I used to think that the images were all connected, telling a story, where they were illustrating lots of different. So I'd be going, how's it gone from 4 men on horseback to somebody standing in a field? And I try and work out what the story was through that. And one of the things that I like to do on a plane, so if I'm getting a Japan Airlines or something, when you get on, they've got all the newspapers, but they're Japanese newspapers. And I can't read the kanji on there. So I just go through it trying to make up what the story is. And there's a picture of someone, what's he done? In my mind, I invent all the stories as I go, and that passes a lot of time on a plane. But I like that thing where now you've got to question yourself. You see a thing, and graphically it looks great, but what does it mean? And there is no answer. I'm just interested. For me, I'm just doing a visual thing.
Well, you're making it what it means in your head.
For some of it, I'm just going, that bit of type with that image, it's a great poster, right? And I've seen lots of foreign posters. I don't know what they mean, but they just look great. And so that's partly it for me. But other people have got to know what that means. And with the Arabic script, I used to sell some of these prints. I'd sell to the States, and they would say, oh, I want to buy that print, but I need to know what that Arabic lettering says. And I'd say, I don't know. It's a packet of henna, and on the back it's got there's a whole page of what's in it. I don't know. It's a bit of that, or it's from a cereal box from Egypt. I don't know what it actually says. And they wouldn't buy it because
there might be something offensive.
For them, Arabic lettering is terrifying because it's the language of terror, and it's like just a different letter form.
Yeah.
But in their mind, that's terrorism, and they're scared that.
I suppose, it could be more provocative.
It's very
simply for the language that it's in.
Yeah, and also it's like all those flags with Arabic lettering on. People freak out, don't they?
And like you say, it just could be, here's the water park, or
it's just a logo.
This way to the zoo, or whatever.
It's just a logo, but they've connected it with
either
offending Arabic people or being an aggressive kind of thing. But all that kind of fascinates me.
Do you have any problem now with finishing an image or deciding what?
I do, but not. It's not. I mean, that used to be a real kind of.
Well, we spoke about how it was a bit like people are going to judge you for the final images.
Yeah.
Does that come with age and experience that you go,
Yeah,
well, fuck
so now I don't care. I might have a problem finishing it because I think, it needs a bit more. That needs something else. And then I don't quite know what it is yet. But there's a different thing before I had a real issue there, and that's gone now. If I'm really enjoying it, I'll finish it. But I think if it's, then it will get shelved.
So you've been in Australia since the late 90s.
Yeah.
How's that shaped what you've done, bearing in mind you've grown up in and around that almost a triangle?
Yeah, so
Central St Martin's, the
I
car
think
park, and
that's been because of being on my own kind of thing, or being away from everything, has boosted my confidence and helped me solidify things in my mind, I think. And it's a bit weird now because, as you know, I'm a bit of an international man of mystery. So I'm backwards and forward. Nobody knows if I'm here or there. It's hard to follow.
Mr. Edwards, again, the moniker a little bit vague.
Social media. So I don't tend to think about where I am particularly. It's hard to say which one I belong. I belong everywhere. I'm trying to think more in a global sense.
Yeah.
And it's just geography, really, rather than state of mind.
Because, as I say, you do sell at galleries in London. You've had solo shows.
It's sell all over the world. And so at the moment, I started selling a lot in South America. And I don't know why that's suddenly... So America's dropped off a bit since all those tariffs came in. So South America's quite big, and quite big on paste ups as well. I send a lot of stuff to people when they have paste up festivals and things. So there's quite a big thing happening in South America.
And is it a sustainable thing for you to be an artist now? You built up a name, a following enough to...
No, but I don't care anymore.
But I just think that's interesting for listeners because everyone's got that idea of, I want to be a full-time artist earning money from my art. And
yeah, that of course, but it's economics, isn't it? So some people are not in a position where they can't not have money coming in, and that's always the problem. It's like, I'd love to be an artist, but I've got to keep paying the rent. And I guess to be an artist, you have to be removed from that, otherwise you just can't do it.
Do you think those financial pressures limit creativity?
No, they don't limit creativity, but what they mean is you can't devote the time you want to it. So that you get a lot of people. And as we've been talking about, you have your day job and then you do your art job.
Balance too.
And lots of people do that. And I used to try and get jobs where they weren't too labour intensive, so I had time to do my other stuff. And then I got to a point where it was taking all my time, so I didn't have any time. And I realised the place I was printing at moved, and I went to the opening of the new place. And then I realised I hadn't been there for a year. I hadn't printed anything in that place for a year because they'd moved. And I thought, I haven't been there since they were in the old place. And I thought, that's it, then I'm just going to... There's a lot of other things going on. There's been a lot of people I know passing away, and I'm getting older, and you've got to start thinking, I don't know how much time I've got left.
Does that mean you want to create more, or does that mean...
It means I'm just going to not worry about things, and I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do what I want, and I can't afford to be a full-time artist, but I'm just going to do it because that's what I want to do right now. And I've just got to that stage where it feels like there's no time like the present, and you can keep putting stuff off, and then who knows what's down the track.
But do you make a conscious effort? I mean, as I say, you've had solo shows and things like that, but do you make a conscious effort to market yourself as an artist? Because I think deep down, I think that's what a lot of people go, well, you've got a good following on social media. I'm not quite sure, where did that come from? Just built naturally, or was that some
that's taken
epiphany of event that someone shared some work? And
well, no, it's weird because it's Instagram, isn't it? So who knows? You plod along with not many. I mean, I haven't got many followers really, but you plod along with nothing, and then literally one post will double your... I don't know how it works. Just suddenly goes a bit bonkers for a bit, and then it drops off again.
And is that your major outlet for selling? Because I know you're linked in London with Atom Gallery and other... So
online is, and then through lots of little galleries.
And is that the best place if people want to go and check you out, go and look at your website and buy some work directly from you?
Yeah, probably better than... Well, you got to remember, I'll be posting it from Australia. So depending on which country you're in, then go to a gallery.
When was the solo show? Is that 2023?
2023.
And that's The Art Is Shit, right?
Well, that was just
That was a piece within it.
That was a piece within it, yeah. I think maybe it was a paste up. There was a show at Atom where they got artists to just decorate pizza boxes. It was square, so it fitted a pizza box, and I put it on there. And then I think after that, because it got a bit of interest, then I did a print. And then after the print, I think I made the tin. The question most asked is what's in the tin. So
that's the classic, isn't it? Was Piera Manzoni's actually full of artist shit? Who knows?
Yeah, well, I've seen pictures of them open.
Oh, you have?
There's a tin inside the tin.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, you open up the tin and inside that is another tin, yeah, which I quite like the idea of that.
It could be a Russian doll of tins of shit.
Yeah, because I think he worked it out so it was the same price as gold. Or
yeah, there was something along those lines, wasn't it? It was the cans were priced by weight in gold, mocking both the art market's obsession with authenticity and the preciousness of the artist.
Yeah, well, that's something I was going to touch on about in my youth, is that art was ridiculed, fine art. So I remember my mum going on about, so this is like 73, I think. The Tate Gallery bought this pile of bricks, as it was called, bought the pile of bricks. My mum used to go on about it. She said, oh, they bought a pile of bricks for £1 million or something. So that's a piece by Carl Andre called Equivalent 8, I think it's called. And it's 2 stacks of fire bricks. I think they only paid $2,000 for those bricks. It's not $1 million. But the whole point was there was an economic climate. I think it was the 3-day week and the fuel crisis. And it's not a particularly exciting piece of art. But she always says she's going about a pile of bricks, and she used to go on about Andy Warhol's baked bean tin, with soup tins. I don't know if he did a baked bean tin, but it's just getting it slightly wrong, but it all being ridiculous.
Did you find that funny?
Didn't find it funny, but it's just background noise, if they're going on about it.
But at the root of a lot of your work is that comedy element and that farcical nature, as we say, the Dada-esque art. Your mum had a bit of it's just a tin of soup. It's just a load of fire bricks. And there is that kind of farcical element to that.
Yeah, I should have been a stand-up comedian, but I'm going to be a sit-down comedian. That's what I think I do.
Have you had any ambitions of doing some stand-up or sit-down comedy?
Yeah, I sometimes think about it, but it's hard work, isn't it? Everything's hard slog.
Do you find being an artist hard now?
No, I don't find it hard.
What advice would you give to artists coming up? Because, I guess you use your creative talents, myself as a photographer, you as a designer.
Yeah.
And you find the art later because you want to start visually communicating, expressing more.
I think what it is, you get older and then stuff becomes clearer, what you want to do, what you like and think, but also you worry less about, that's my thing. I just stop worrying about stuff and just get on with it. And that seems to come a bit later. And maybe some people are more financially secure, so they got a bit more time. Things just come together and they think, oh, I'll do this, or an opportunity comes up and they go down. The
universe just puts something in the right place at the right time.
A lot of people just go down, or you set up on a route and you just keep going down it and you don't really think about what you're doing or where you just, because one thing leads to another, and then you just wake up one day and
Did you think you were going to be an artist?
No, because I didn't even think about it. As I'm saying, it wasn't until I guess a lot of people, you get to leaving school and then you've got to decide what you're going to do. And some people always have known what they want to do, and other people just suddenly go, and they end up in, either they can get pressured by their parents to go into something.
Society, parents. The starving artist narrative obviously is one.
Well, you
can't make any money being an artist. Go and be a...
It breaks my heart when I see people and they go, I'm going to become a dentist or an accountant, and you think, and it's because there's money there, stability, but you just think...
But does the world need another bang average accountant?
Well, it's just, that's your life. So you're going to spend your life just looking at figures and doing that.
Did you have ambitions to have a creative life when you were younger?
No. As I was saying, I didn't think anything, but I think as I got older, I really believe in that thing where, do what you love and you never do a day's work in your life. You spend so long doing it, you should be enjoying it.
Yeah.
And that's the perfect thing, is you're just doing what you want to do anyway, and then you get paid for it.
That's the pinnacle, right?
I was going to say pinnacle, and I thought, is that the word I'm looking for? It's the kind of acme, maybe.
Do you love what you do now?
Yeah, I do. It's not working. It's just what I want to do. It's all, what we were talking about, the selling yourself bit. That's the bit nobody likes to do, and that's half
Come
of
on
it.
then, Mr. Edwards, if you had to give me your elevator pitch, what would it be?
I haven't got an elevator pitch. I'm just trying to get people to buy more stuff, and that would keep me going longer. There's no pitch. It's just buy my stuff.
And how do you do that? Do you have to just find the community like you're trying to do that resonates?
What you have to do shows, you have to do a lot of online promote. It's just, you're in a studio somewhere just cranking out all this stuff you like. And if you never left that, no one would know about it. It just sits there building up, and you think, no one likes my stuff, do they? And it's like, well, you haven't
shown it to anyone.
You haven't shown it to anybody. And so all you're doing is just trying to get it in front of people who are going to like what you're doing. And that's quite hard work, because how are they going to know about you? It's just getting it in front of people.
Do you think your design background and that sort of marketing, advertising background has helped in that sense? Do you think your work's more accessible potentially than...
No, not really.
The cavalry charging over the bring on horses?
It's a different thing, because when you're doing something for a client, they're the one who's go and promote it. I'm not doing the advertising side of it. I'm just creating it. Unfortunately, now I'm creating it, and then I'm also got to be the person who's
and that's hard,
putting it out there. And that's not something I'm good at.
How do you think you could be better at that?
I think possibly you've got to be less worried about what people will think. You've got to not be slow in coming forward and not worry about getting knocked back. I guess you've got to be a bit thick-skinned.
How do you develop that thick skin?
I don't know. It's just personalities, isn't it? Some people don't like to ask, and other people are quite comfortable doing it. It's just...
Have you noticed a change in that from being in Australia? Because obviously the British are we're very humble. We don't like to boast. We don't like to do this. And I know we all think of Americans, don't we? We think of extravagance and boasting.
Yeah.
What is Australian culture like for selling yourself or promoting yourself?
Well, they have this thing in Australia, which is the tall poppy syndrome. Nobody likes anybody bragging, and so they're very much more on the British side of things.
Does that make promoting and trying to shout out about your work a bit harder?
That's not.
Look at this guy shouting about his bat smoker or his art, his shit. Well, I guess that goes down again to not caring what other people think.
Yeah,
it's hard for us, I think.
Yeah, but it's just logistics. Like, how do you get people to look at just to see it?
In a saturated world of images, like we say.
Yeah, and just every now and again when you think, oh, this one's no good, no one's interested in this particular image. Out of the blue, someone will buy one, and you think, where did they see that? How did they find out about that?
I know this is a strange question and one you probably can't answer, but do you have a favourite piece of your own work?
No, they go in cycles. So I'll say, oh, I don't like that one. I'll stop going down that route. And then a bit later, I'll go, oh yeah, that wasn't too bad, that, and I'll come back to it. So they're kind of on a rotation. But I do feel like it's like a cast of characters. There's a Cyclops baby and the
bat smoker, and there's I kind of think there's a couple. I'm quite like these kind of wrestling mask things. I've been playing with a few. Oh, those what they called luchadors, or Mexicans wrestling. But I find these photos just like the ones that look odd rather than cool. So there's a couple of those guys I use because they're just bizarre, and that's from that golden age of 50s and 60s wrestling. And that they're out there. Just great images. Yeah, but I do like to think of having this little cast of characters out there. Is Mr. Edwards in that cast of characters? He's the main one, isn't it? He's the ringmaster. Yeah, so I do use, these kids with like really bad teeth that I use as Mr. Edwards, as the kind of brand. So yeah, he is one, but he's a kid. What do you think we haven't spoke about that probably we maybe should have done that tells your story a little bit, Mr. Edwards? I don't know, that's why I should have had notes, isn't it? Okay, so what's next for you? Freedom, I think, is next from work. Freedom is now. Can you say more? What does that mean? So all the things we've mentioned, not worrying about judgment or what people think, just doing it, just do it. Not worrying about not having the right equipment or where you are, or just do it. Make the art. Don't worry about anything, really. Seems like a good place to bring this to a close. Yeah, it's really just stop worrying about things. Life is short, and don't do things that you're not enjoying unless you have to. Sometimes you have to. Yeah. But it's trying to free yourself from doing stuff that you don't want to do. That's the whole point of the podcast, trying to inspire people to do the stuff that inspires them. Yeah, just do the stuff you want to do. Great. If you can. We do have a closing tradition on
Yeah.
the Creative No Land podcast, where we ask you to leave us with some sort of quote that resonates with you, but also someone from your network who you think could be an interesting future guest on the podcast.
Right. So quote, it popped into my head actually, and I don't know who said it. Can't quite remember how it goes. Why do you have to be happy instead of just being normal? And I think it was a girl who came out to her parents and they said to her, why do you have to be happy instead of just being normal?
What does that mean to you?
That means that people think that being normal is just towing the line and doing this, not making any ripples, and how dare you, you're trying to be happy makes you like a troublemaker.
An outlier.
And I'm into
Just
that.
Stay in your lane. Be
Troublemaking is a great pastime, I think.
Troublemaking is a great pastime.
Mm.
That shows again in your work, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, I like troublemakers, I think.
If you could pick a troublemaker off the top of your head, who would you choose?
Well, I think like all street artists are like troublemakers. Comedians are troublemakers,
Do you think they become comedians, artists, creatives, become the barometer of society? They're the people that can push. Comedian especially, you can be the court gesture. You're the only one that can tell the king.
Yeah, well, they are, because they react to what's happening. That's the whole. Comedians take the sting out of it, or can highlight something or criticize something in a less abrasive way. People don't like politicians that don't like comedians for that very reason, because once you get people laughing, then it's much more effective than just lobbying or whatever. And that's why they're troublemakers. It has real power.
And would you like to be remembered as a troublemaker?
Yeah, why not?
Perfect. And what about someone in your network who you think could be an interesting guest?
Well, there's a few, but
We'll take multiple suggestions.
so Terry Jones would be a good guy to talk to. There's an Australian artist who lives here, Heath Kane. He's had quite an interesting creative journey, and I'd say he was very kind of corporate and has gone completely to being an artist. They're the two that stand out that haven't introduced themselves to you already.
And Terry Jones.
Terry Jones, yeah.
Heath Kane.
Yeah.
But yeah, great. If we could access either one of those, I think they'd have great stories to share on the Creative No Land podcast. But for now, Mr. Edwards, thank you very much. Have a safe trip back to Australia, and thank you for taking the time to come and talk to us.
Thanks for the therapy.
Thanks for listening to the Creative No Land podcast. If you found anything in this episode useful or inspiring, please consider subscribing or sharing it with a friend. You can also help the podcast by clicking the support the show link in the show notes, or by grabbing yourself something from the Creative No Land shop. And here's the bonus. When you join the community through our website, you'll get a special discount code that gives you free shipping on all orders. So, before you buy anything, be sure to join the community. Every bit of support helps us keep sharing these inspiring stories. So, thanks again for listening, and until next time, explore, inspire, and create.
Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way. And so, therefore, it's so important to consider this question: what do I desire?